Hello YouTubers, this is Cessnaace and I received 5 Sega Master System games from the NES dump. Before I get to these, I need to again apologize, as I did in my previous video, for the poor sound quality. I need to replace the sound card and I still haven't gotten to that, but I will get to it as soon as I can. So for those of you who have been sticking with my videos and putting up with the distracting, poor quality of the audio, I thank you for hanging with me. Now, one thing I did differently this time around is, to kind of paraphrase Leave Morse 1, I took each game, I popped it in, and I played some of that. Normally, when I play Master System games, I don't use the Master System controller, because the Master System controller is difficult to replace, at least on this side of the pond, and the buttons are kind of mushy. And as the controller wears and ages, that only gets worse. So I try and save my Master System controllers and use instead a 3-button Genesis controller. Now, obviously you're going to have a dead button, but you get used to that, and at least with a 3-button Genesis controller, you've only got one dead button, which is why I don't use the 6-button Genesis controller. But you get used to it pretty easily, and the Genesis is a nice controller to use with the Master System. Okay, this first game was released only in Japan for the SG-1000. This is Safari Race. It looks quite a bit like Outrun, except it's got a little bit more flicker in it than Outrun does. And there are some play differences. For one thing, you have to avoid hitting animals that dart in your path, and graphically speaking, they kind of look like refugees from a Atari 2600 game, and they kind of you get used to that, but what I had a harder time getting used to is the second difference between this and Outrun, is you have to replenish your fuel supply a couple times each race, and they say on the back here to run full throttle, but if you run full throttle, you're not going to be able to stop in time to refuel. You'll pass right past the pump, and I haven't been able to find a reverse. So after a certain, well, you kind of get used to gauging when you need to start slowing down for the next refueling point. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the first video game that had fully licensed cars. That is, Sega licensed the right to use the cars that are in this game. Now, the rest of these games are all conversions of games released for the Sega Mark III in Japan. And this first one is a top-down racer, Super Racing. Now, normally I don't much care for top-down racers because I'm not very good at them, but before I popped the next game in after this one, I was kind of getting the hang of it. And if I forgot to mention, the text in all these games has been translated and replaced. All the Japanese text has been removed and replaced with English text. This next game is based on a Japanese anime manga series. I'm not going to try and pronounce it. All the play videos that I found on YouTube for this game are the original Mark III version. And this game has a lot of text, and the people who were trying to play this game couldn't figure out how to play it because the text was all in Japanese. And I figured, well, if I was trying to play the Japanese version, I wouldn't be able to do it either. But fortunately, all the text has been replaced with English text, as I said, so it's a little bit easier, or quite a bit easier. It's always interesting to see what Joe at the NES dump comes up with as far as colors for the labels. I've got several ideas for videos to do upcoming. I just want to put them off until I can get that new sound card. But one of the ideas I have is to show off all of my prototypes, homebrews, that sort of thing. I've got them for the NES, the Sega Master System, the Atari 7800, the Atari Jaguar, etc. So that's one idea that I've got mulling around in the back of my head. This game is based on an arcade game, apparently. Solomon's Key. And finally, the story of Mayo. This is another game I wouldn't be able to play if it had not been translated into English because it's got a lot of text. And looking at this Genesis controller reminded me that I do have some homebrews for the Genesis, as well as unreleased prototype for the Sega CD. Did a video of that recently. So, until next time, stay awesome.